Hello and welcome me back. Jesus, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. So this is not indie opinions. This is indie answers. Basically, with indie opinions, I've kind of felt like I covered pretty much everything I could possibly cover with that format, and I didn't really enjoy it, to be quite honest, towards the end. So this is a new series that I'm doing, Indie Answers, where I specifically answer a writing-related question. And this is less about me giving my opinion as fact, which I feel like I was doing a lot of in indie opinions. In fact, I feel like I did that too much to the point that it seemed a bit preachy, which is not what I want to do. I don't want to be that sort of writer that tells other writers exactly what they need to do when I myself am not actually successful. That's just stupid. So this is going to be in the format of me answering common writing questions. So in the comments of this video, once I'm done, if you want to give me any new questions you want me to answer, then please let me know in the comments, or let me know via my Twitter, my Instagram, I think that's it, Twitter and Instagram, and my Facebook. Yeah, sorry, forgot what Facebook was for a second there. But yeah, anyway, so let's get into this video. So for the opening of season 2 of Indie Opinions, which was about 18 months now, I did a video of whether or not I thought you should write to a deadline. And I said quite vehemently that I thought you should, and that it had worked for me on pretty much every occasion. Now this question being, should you write to a deadline? My answer has now changed due to my own personal experiences with my latest book that was released, Grim. I've backpedaled a little bit. I don't think that's a good idea anymore. So basically, the reason for that is I still think writing to a deadline can be a good idea. It depends on the scenario, obviously, but it can be a good idea if you know what your word count is going to be, and you've done a lot more plotting of your story. So, and you don't really want to deviate too much from that, and you want to do like a plotter focused instead of a pantser focused thing. Which is absolutely cool and chill. If you want to do that, I think that would, in that case, it can work writing to a deadline, because you can kind of predict word count and how long it's going to be, and have like your targets and whatnot that you need it to reach. But when your story is very bare bones, like my plan for Grim was, basically just the Grim Reaper becomes human. That was literally it. That was literally the whole thing. There was nothing else really. There was nothing else to it. It was just the Grim Reaper becomes a human. Like, okay, that right there is like 10 words. That's a very not big concept, and I thought that it would be an extremely small project. I thought it would be maybe 10,000 words. So I started writing it in January of last year, January 2021, and I believed that I would be done with it come like May, June time of that year. And then I said to like be really, really playing it safe. I was going to say August would be the release date. I'm very glad I didn't release a release date for that, because oh boy, I was wrong. Because if you've seen my TikTok video or the Instagram video that I did of my book's words and page counts, you would know that Grim is actually like a few, like 40 words shy of 56k. Like, it's my first full novel, basically. The rest of them were novellas or novelettes, but this one was like my first full novel. And I was not expecting this to happen at all. And that's because most of what was in it was pantsed. It was a pantser sort of writing style, which is a bit unusual for me, to be quite honest. I haven't really done pantsery sort of thing since I was a teenager when I first started writing. But, sometimes things change and you want to write in a different style, and it turned out pretty good. I think it's my best work so far. Best written work, at least. It's not my favorite story, but that's besides the point. So anyway, I think writing to a deadline now, just don't do it, man. I'm not doing it for my current project, Emerald Executioner, which is the last of the SO trilogy. So Ruby Rain, Sapphire Sunlight, World Executioner. I think it'll probably come out. Now I'm saying I think it will probably come out this year, but I'm not gonna quote myself on that. I've almost finished writing the second draft at this point in time, but I may write a third or a fourth one, I don't know. And that's another thing I want to get into for why you shouldn't really be giving yourself a deadline. But I'll get into that in like a few minutes. But anyway, when I decided to write Grimm, the premise was linked a lot in demonology, a lot of all that good stuff. So I just thought, it would just be a fun little short story kind of thing. But then it turned into a full novel, my first full novel. So I couldn't really say, oh yeah, it'll come out in August, because I was literally, I don't think I actually finished the rough draft of it until the end of May, the beginning of June. So I really couldn't say, oh yeah, it'll come out in August, because it takes longer than that to rewrite something. Like, even rewriting Ruby Rain, which is my first book, that took like 2 months. And that was 25k. This was double that, so I couldn't over double that, so I couldn't exactly claim that I could do it, because I couldn't. So at the end of the day, I scheduled the release date for New Year's Eve 2021. So technically what I put down in Sapphire Sunlight at the end, like the little things I do at the end of my books where I say where the next book's coming out and give like a teaser of like the first line or the cover or a little bit of the cover if I've already designed a little bit of it. When I said coming 2021, I didn't technically lie. By one day, I didn't lie. And to be honest, it was ready by that point, but it was so fucking close. Like, it was too close, in my opinion. I shouldn't have tried to schedule it at all. I should have just written it and been like, yeah, this is ready, I'll publish this now. And then just gone on with my life and the writing and just done it when I wanted to, which is mostly every day, but I don't necessarily always write every day anymore because I'm not unemployed and I'm not a student. I work now, so it's harder to do that. But yeah, that's just one of my thoughts about it. Another thought that I kind of have is that if you want to do more drafts than you think you needed to when you did the prediction, you kind of can't, which is the thing I was talking about like 2 minutes ago. Like, if you want to do a rough draft that's like very bare bones and you don't even edit it, you can do that and then just move on to the next draft. And with that, you can kind of predict. So like, if there's 2 drafts, which is normally what I do, you can kind of predict. But then if you want to do a third one, it's like, well, that's a whole, for a full novel, I'd say it's another like 5-6 months added if you're doing it right. Or if you're doing it not necessarily every day. If you're doing it every day, it's probably like 3 or 4. But still, you can't really, if you've said, oh, it will be released then, and then you don't, it doesn't necessarily matter with me. I realize I just kind of have a complex about these sorts of things because I'm particular like that. But if you are actually famous or pseudo famous, even in like an indie author way of having hundreds of thousands of readers, a lot of them are probably going to get pretty pissed at you if you don't release the book when you say you will. And I'd rather people didn't have to go through that, especially not other writers who have to go through abuse of people thinking that it's not a real profession, even though, yeah, it is. But I'd say that just to make it easier on yourself, especially if you're an indie, this is mostly advice for indies, by the way, if you're trying to get traditionally published, deadlines and shit, they exist. Sorry, you don't have control over them, the publishers do. But if you're an indie, to my mind, one of the great benefits of it is that you can just set your own pace. And if you want to only write 1 day a week, you can only write 1 day a week, 1 week. And if you want to write like 14 times, like 14 sessions in the next week, you can totally do that to make up the time. I wouldn't recommend it. That doesn't sound very fun at all, but you can. But anyway, just the deadline thing, even with when I set the original deadlines, I overshot. Which I think if you're going to set deadlines, you should overshoot anyway. You should allow yourself leeway. But for the love of God, I'm glad I haven't done this yet. Do not tell people it'll be released at a certain time when you haven't even written the second draft yet. If you haven't, if you're just down to editing it, fine. Then go ahead, do it. Tell them when it's coming out. If you don't, if you know that you've read through, if you've done like the main read through once and you're like, yeah, I don't need to rewrite this, then fine, go ahead, do it. But if not, then I'd seriously say, um, only give people like a. I mean, unless you're doing it for pre-order, but even if you're doing it for pre-order, KDP doesn't really let you do it until 2 months before, and I'd say don't do it. Don't make the deadline for it until like a month before. Don't let people pre-order until a month before, basically, just so you have that month to be like, up until that month before, to be like, oh shit, I need to change the release date and then pull it from pre-order. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that was. I have not done this in almost a year and a half, believe it or not. That was really rambly, Jesus. This is fucking almost 12 minutes long. Anyway, sorry. So, yeah, this is Indie Answers. That was episode 1. Should you write to a deadline? Short answer, yes, if you know how many drafts you want to do and you've plotted out pretty much everything and you don't think you're going to deviate from that at all. But absolutely not if you're just pantsering it and you don't have any idea how long it's going to be or how many drafts you're going to need to do. Just don't do it until, or if you have to set a deadline when you're doing that, don't do it until like the very end. Or if you do set deadlines, just set them in your head. Don't make them into the universe. Don't tell other people about them, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. The TLDR of this, basically, if you will. Anyway, that was this episode. If you have any writing related questions you want me to answer, then please drop them into the YouTube comments, my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my TikTok, if you can find it. I've posted to it once. Good luck finding it. Anyway, and that's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll be doing these weekly. So be sure to pop back next Sunday where I'll do the next video. Alright? So that's the end, and as always, write on.